We've got that weekend feeling with all the big calls on all the big races. Welcome back to another Group 1 standard edition of What a Shout. Myself, Dave Orton, in the chair. Delighted to be back with you. Filmed somewhere in the capital on a Friday morning with our sponsors, Bet365. Welcome along, everyone, again. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Newmarket, York, and you Jumps fans, we're bringing you in as well. Chepstow comes back to the party. They go over the sticks. Joining me in the studio, delighted to say, Graeme Rodway, the big bear himself, another stint. You're getting used to these shows again, G?
Yeah, I think everyone will be getting fed up with me now, won't they?
And you're smiling because you are on rip-roaring form.
Yeah, it was a good week last week. Yeah, fantastic Saturday.
You did?
Yeah, with Saffron Beach obviously being a massive highlight. But this weekend is a fantastic weekend of racing, isn't it? If you love racing, you love flat racing, you love jump racing, it don't matter. This weekend you've got a bit of everything, and I can't wait to get going again, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if you're a football fan, your season ticket holder, you're looking at your phone throughout, aren't you? Because it is just everything, someone out there for you. Okay. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. That's what it's all about. Get involved. Anything on Twitter, send us some feedback, send us your questions. Hashtag what a shout. Now, where's Pat Cooney this week? Let's have a look. Where have they sent him?
Yeah, I'm checking in from Newmarket. I'm about a mile away from the racecourse, and I can say to everyone, it is gorgeous down here. Dry, mild, no wind at all. The ground will be drying out very quickly, I'm sure. So nice to have a weekend. Good ground, isn't it?
Oh, especially at this time of year, Pat. And I'll tell you what, it's nice to have another guest. Pat Sarr, obviously, our bookmaker sponsoring guest, that's got a pair of curtains behind him. We had Aidan O'Brien last week. I'll tell you, Pat, I think Aidan's are a little bit classier than yours, my man.
Yeah, but he didn't draw his properly. There was a bit of a gap at the top. I'm not OCD by any means, but I spent about 2 hours making sure they were straight and all nicely lined for you.
Oh, there we go. Absolutely. Great to have Pat on. Great to have you with us as well. Great to have our guest this weekend. We've scoured the racing world. She is back. It's the one and only Hollie Doyle joining us for an interview segment, and she's going to give us some naps as well. Let's have a look exactly what's coming up on the show for you. Hot topics, bringing them back. Plenty to get our teeth stuck into. 5 big race previews for you. And as mentioned, those all-important weekend winners. Time we've all been waiting for. Let's give a very warm what a shout welcome to the one and only Hollie Doyle, who joins us from our home, having ridden out and been all over the place. Hollie, welcome along to What a Shout.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Everyone's delighted to see her. Right, let's get this out the way, because 2020, it's fair to say, by sporting standards, I mean, you were the Times Sportswoman of the Year, 3rd in Sporting Personality of the Year as well, 151 winners, a Group 1 breakthrough on Champions Day, Trueshan that day as well, Royal Ascot, all before you. Wow, Hollie, where have you come from?
Yeah, I mean, last year was pretty phenomenal. Great year for me. Yeah, I don't have another like that, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, of course. You only rode your first winner in 2016 when you were an amateur. I said to you in the week, was that on a horse called Aguero for Richard Hannon? Hollie couldn't really remember. Graeme Rodway is with us in the studio as well. 568 winners she's had. 151 last year. She's on 141 this season. Where does this end? It's just ascendancy to the top, isn't it?
Yeah, no, fantastic, hasn't it? It's been a fantastic time that Hollie's had, and yeah, right up there with the best jockeys in Britain. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, okay, we've got Pat Cooney with us as well. Hollie, he'll ask you a question in a minute, but let's get that screen up. Hollie, we're looking at your best horses that you've ridden by Racing Post Races. Now, Saffron Beach should actually be on that as well, but you rode, I think, in the Atlanta Stakes, didn't you? Trueshan at the top, of course. Hollie, it's obviously been a frustrating 10 days for you because you've had a 7-day ban, haven't you, that kept you from riding in France at the weekend, and at Ascot as well when Glen Shiel was riding. Frustrating time?
Yeah, that would be an understatement. It's been really frustrating, but that's racing, and I'm not the first jockey for it to happen to, and I won't be in last probably.
No, of course. But Hollie, let's talk about this a little bit. At the start of the year, of course, you came out and said you were a little bit intimidated by a steward's inquiry. That was February time, wasn't it? You've gone back in, you've got a 7-day ban. There seems to be a lot of inconsistencies with the stewards at the moment.
I'm obviously always going to feel hard done by getting a ban, and I think most jockeys do. But I think quite a lot of jockeys appeal these days because they compare it to another incident they've seen, and they feel like, oh, well, this jockey got that, why have I got more? Or so and so got less than me. because sometimes it can be inconsistent. But this appeal in particular, I obviously appealed for all the right reasons, really, to try and get it reduced. But I was guilty of careless riding, so it was the right decision on the day.
She's being very, very diplomatic and polite about it. I can tell you that much. It was a horse called Mountain Ash a week or so ago at Kempton, wasn't it? An early on interference. You can watch it, but did seem a little bit harsh. Hollie, then, you weren't able to ride Trueshan. I assume that's where you would have gone for the Cadran on Saturday over Glenshiel. Of course, it was your first Group 1 winner on Champions Day last year. How did it feel watching him going and beating Stradivarius, that clash that we'd all been waiting for?
Yeah, obviously it was a bit sickening for me, but obviously I was very proud. I was really, really happy for Alan King and his owners, and delighted to see him fulfil his potential that we all thought he could have been capable of at the start of the season. The Cadran was a race that Alan had targeted for quite a long time with him. So to see him perform like that and finally, clash with Stradivarius was pretty epic.
Now, you're close to the owners, of course. We're hoping you're going to be back on it next time. It was James Dorr that had the pleasure of steering him, of course, on Saturday at the art meeting. Will he turn up at Champions Day? That's the first question I've got for you, Hollie. Graeme, we're expecting it to be in his favour. He won the race last year, but there is another Group 1 later on, isn't there? Back in France.
Yeah, obviously Champions Day next Saturday. The Group 2 stay in division, and then obviously a week later there is a Group 1. Back round Longchamp, so I think it will just be down to Alan to decide whether he needs another week or not. But time will tell.
Okay, time will tell. All right, sitting on the fence then. So a little bit of a doubt about his participation this year at Ascot. Of course, you've ridden for Aidan O'Brien this year as well. You had your first ride for him in the Dante. You also rode in the Vermeil, of course. And I just want to touch on something that the media and social world seems to have gone crazy about recently. Afterwards, Frankie Dettori was asked about the defeat of Snowfall, and he said, well, I think Hollie maybe could have gone a bit faster. In your At the Races column last Friday, you gave a bit of what people called a backhander, and you said it was a tremendous boost to have Ryan back on Snowfall. Is there anything we're reading into this?
Not really. I think maybe it's been read into a bit too much. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's what Frankie thought. And no, I think like I said, everyone's entitled to their opinion on the day, and maybe it was just blown out of the water a little bit.
All right then, okay, one bubbling under maybe. Of course, these things are always in print. Now, Hollie's got a strong book of rides on Saturday at York. We'll go into them in a second, but you wanted to ask her about?
What is the next big Hollie Doyle star horse? Have you got like a young horse, an up-and-comer who we can really look forward to in the coming seasons?
Well, I'm just on the process of trying to find one, really. Obviously, it's an exciting time of year with the sales, and we're looking for the next superstar, really. And I'm, hoping Emma Cigar's got a few superstars for next season. Obviously, really looking forward to what Riz could do. He won at Yarmouth first time out, and he looked to have some nice potential. I think he's done for the year now, obviously, but could be a nice horse for next year.
Oh, I'll tell you what, there's a great link there. So Riz, yeah, look out. You can watch back that replay, him at Yarmouth. Yes, he did look good. That answers your question then. Hot topic time. What are we going to choose from? Pat Cooney, I will give you the floor. Regular viewers, you know the crack by now. Here they come. You can see them there. Time's up, right down to the bottom one, of course, the anti-post tips. Where are you going, Pat?
Well, the one that irritates me the most is Time's Up.
Time's up. Right, now this would be about these race times. Now, I know it seems like we're having a bit of a pop on this show, probably. But, gee, we'll let Pat wax lyrical in a minute. But did you see last weekend the Group 1 Sun Chariot, the domestic jewel in the Racing Crown on Saturday, was a split screen on RTV. OK, if you're watching on ITV, you probably didn't get it. But Red Card didn't wait. It was 2:55. They let them go down. They went off at the same time. It reminds us, doesn't it, of the John Durkan, that famous one with Min up against Top Notch in the Peterborough a couple of years ago. No one seemingly has learned the lesson here. Why aren't they talking to each other? A couple of weeks ago, we had the Vermeil and the Flying Five in Ireland, two Group 1 races in Europe, going off at the same time. Two different channels, but no one chatting. This isn't not satisfactory, is it?
No, it's very frustrating, isn't it? And as well, it makes little sense when there's France and England, because there's an hour time difference between the two. So, you could easily run the race at different times of the day, even. From a watcher's perspective, it is really, really annoying, of course, especially if you're a purist who likes the Group 1s and you've got a selling race from Redcar or something going on in the background on the right, and you're like, oh, I just want to watch the big race here. They have tried to improve it, of course, Dave, switching around these weird race times, 2:37 and 3:43. But the problem is that will only work if you get those races off on time.
Yeah, run it like a business, right?
Everyone has to be down at the start, ready to go on time. Now, I accept that there will be horses who don't go into the stalls and there's going to be problems like that, which are unforeseen. And I think we would all forgive that. But when you see horses for the 2:53 going down on their way at 2:53, you start to think, what's going on here? Why is this taking so long? Get out there and get on time.
Yeah, it does look a bit slow, doesn't it? If you're new to racing, Pat, it's unsatisfactory so far. What about from a bookmaking perspective?
Well, it must be said, just purely from the number crunching, almost 75% of all bets we take on any race are in the last 10 minutes before the off. So the punters like to have that narrative, don't they? They like to see them going down to the start. They like to hear what the pundits are saying and just form their opinion based on the current prices there, rather than picking them out the paper at 10 o'clock in the morning. So turnover is severely affected, and punters then have to decide, I won't bother with race B, I'll just focus on race A. If everything was sharper and a bit more slicker, they could have 2 bites of the cherry, 2 races. And on Saturday, we have a similar scenario lying in wait for us. We have a very good 3:30 at Chepstow, the Silver Trophy Handicap Hurdle, a wide open 7-1 the field. We'd all like to have an opinion and a bet on that. But guess what's on at 3:35? The Cesarewitch. And we all want to have a bet on that. We all want to see them down at the start. They'll probably be jumping the last in that race at Chepstow when they're off and running in the Cesarewitch. And it just doesn't seem practical in any way from a turnover point of view, from even an enjoyment point of view. If you're at the races, fine. If you're at home and you're your feet up, enjoying the day, watching the telly, you'll be saying, well, this is madness. It doesn't happen in any other sport.
Yeah, there you go. So time's up. Patience running thin, isn't it? And Pat, quite rightly, with the banana skin. Where are you going? Let's go back to the hot topics. Which one are you going to pick?
I'm going for the keep it simple.
I love it. Now, this should theoretically be up your street, shouldn't it? Because your brother, of course. Is he freelance? Is he?
No, he works for Sky.
He does, doesn't he, Kevin?
Yeah, doing the camera work.
He's
there.
a stalwart there, I have to say, your brother. He does
sure
all the
is.
camera work. Now, what's Keep It Simple about? At the start of the week, Brian Shearing, our Irish correspondent, did a really nice piece of comment, and I think absolutely echoing what a lot of people are thinking at the moment. These camera angles at the moment. He talks about drones, close-ups. Just leave them for the replays, he's saying. Great to see it evolving, but I don't want to see that during the race. Don't know where your runner is.
I can see what they're trying to do. You're always trying to bring a fresh perspective to something. How can we make things more exciting? How can we be innovative and find new ways to bring people different angles, which is great, of course. But most punters, I think, just want to watch the race, and they just want a nice, simple view of the race. They want to be able to see all the horses in the frame all the time. They want to be able to follow their horse the whole way through the race. I'm obviously from a bygone era, but I used to watch racing through binoculars at the racecourse and didn't really watch any other horse than my own. So most people are only considering their own horse that they're punted. The rest of the artwork and camera work, as Brian says, and rightly in my opinion, can all wait for later. We can see that afterwards. And also another important thing for me, anyway, personally, this is going to sound very sad, Dave, but I actually like to time races, and it is incredibly difficult to time races from a certain point to another point if suddenly the camera angle's switching from a drone to another angle, to a different angle. And it happens a lot in Ireland. I don't mean to put the burden on them, but it happens a lot where one race they'll go through the winning line in normal camera shot, and the next winning line you'll be getting a straight on view of them. And you might time one race from a certain point from a side on view, and then you're trying to equate the same time for the next race, but from a forward-on view, and it's almost impossible. It makes the sport so much more difficult for people who are trying to analyse it like me. And I just think if you keep it simple, let us all see the race as we want to see it, every horse in the frame, it just is so much better, Dave.
If that's getting your goat as well, let G-Rod know, because his brother might be able to do something about it. But it's right though, isn't it? Lingfield are a serial offender with this. It happened before the Racing League, but at some point you can't tell whether you're 4 furlongs out, 3 furlongs out. It's a nightmare, man.
Absolutely, and many people love papping each way bets, particularly when enhanced place terms races. Sometimes we're first 4, first 5. We haven't all backed the first and second battling out the finish in a real head bobber. We want to know what's going to run on and fill the places. And for the last 2 furlongs of many races these days, it seems, you've no idea unless you're battling out the fighting finish. You've no idea if you're 3rd, 4th, or 5th or whatever. Just do it all after the race. Time permitting, you can put it up on the websites afterwards. I actually like the jockey cam. That's quite interesting to me. But But no, a lot of people have each way bets, and you're denying them the excitement and enjoyment of watching where their horse is finishing if it's not out there fighting out the finish.
Yeah, of course. Don't forget your members section. You'll always be able to find the replays and all that sort of stuff. But keep it for that, guys. That's what we think. All right, where am I going to go then? Let's have a look down the list. It's got to be, of course, One for the Ages. We are talking about the Arc de Triomphe, the 100th Arc de Triomphe, won by, can you even remember the name?
I do remember it because I wrote it a lot on Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
And I had to check it 2 or 3 times to check that I had spelt it correctly. So it was called Torquato Tasso.
And I will take that pronunciation all day long. This is, of course, the German raider, only beaten once in his life previously by Sir Mark Prescott's Alpinista. Go and check out the newsreels that we've got for Sir Mark about next year's Arc on that. But he came out of nowhere. Pat, let's give this to you. He wasn't, the only one that got this name right in the end, because some knew it beforehand. Our very own Maddie Playle, for example. Let's get Maddie's tweet up. She advised you, all your followers out there, I've got to take some of the 100 to 1. She's rightly got the plaudits about that. Maddie, of course, watches her international racing. Before we go to Pat, actually, it wasn't just Maddie, was it?
No, super judge Maddie, isn't she? And that was a great call by Maddie. And Emily Webber as well, our spotlight writer, also texted me the day before and said, I think this German horse has really got a good chance. Yeah. So I remember texting her back the next day and said, I hope you had £1 each way on that, Emily.
It's never enough, is it? Let's put it that way. Pat, how did this go off 72 to 1 then? Is it because everyone was concentrating on the right horses? What did you make of the form?
Well, it's funny. I was on the show last week and I was saying, these German horses, they're always underestimated in the betting. Unfortunately for my sins, I was referring to the German Oaks winner that ran in the Fillies race, the Opera, I think it was, and she ran awful. So I had it half cracked, but I had the wrong horse in the wrong race. I think he was rated 41st in the world or something like that. But I think what stopped most of us was saying, Alpinista. Well, Alpinista wouldn't win an Arc, so why would he, as unlucky as he was in running? But it was a tremendous result for us, absolutely, no doubt. As you've alluded to there, if you can't even pronounce it or spell it, you're hardly going to back it. But I thought he was a little bit underrated afterwards. I mean, if you take him out of the equation, the result is first Tanawa, second Hurricane Lane, third Adeo, and all be going, wow, that was a Dancing Brave type Arc. This poor fella, he beat a lot of them, and we're all, he wouldn't even be favourite if they all met again. So it looks like he's going to stay in training. He probably needs soft ground, but I don't know. It was just an Arc that I thought there were a couple of ran poor. Chronogenesis, I thought was disappointing. And I just cast my eye back to, someone said to me after the race, what price would Wonderful Tonight have been and where would she have finished? And I thought, well, she'd have been about 5 to 1 and right on top of them. So an unsatisfactory Arc in many respects, but hats off to the winners and German form. Shame I picked the wrong race really on the day.
Well, we all picked the wrong horse. I mean, I was on Hurricane Lane. It was almighty gamble on it when we saw the rain. Chronogenesis, she got sunk by the ground, didn't she? You probably knew. I know you did. Those Japanese flags probably went out the window, didn't they, halfway through the race?
Chronogenesis travelled well, but she didn't get home in the ground. That was always going to be a question mark about the Japanese horse, was whether she would handle the ground. But I felt it was factored in the price. I kind of felt I came into the race and saw it right, in that I thought that there was a lot at the top of the head of the market who were going to take out a huge chunk of the market, and there would be value beneath them. Of course, I didn't find the German horse.
He's an older flug. You should have known. You've been plugging that to death, haven't you?
Been going on about how great German horses are in soft ground all season, but obviously in that race it was very difficult to find Torquato Tasso unless you were Maddie Playle or Emily Webber, who were absolutely all over it. But I thought that it was an interesting race to watch, nevertheless, Dave. Torquato Tasso won it well, and as Pat has said, it would have been an Arc for the ages if Torquato Tasso had not run.
Now, let's two things here. My initial opinion was there were no superstars. We got a bunch of very good horses, but no 130 horses. The Frankels of this world, Cedar Stars, Golden Horns, that outstanding
You
horse.
know, that's how I judge a good horse, isn't it, Dave? Are they a Cedar Stars or a Frankel? And if they're not, then they're not top
But
class.
a bunch of very good 3-year-olds that will hopefully go on to make 4-year-olds. I don't know whether Tanawa will stay in training. She surely wins the Breeders' Cup if she gets there.
Yeah, it was fascinating, wasn't it? Straight after the race, how many people said that, oh, well, if this had happened, we would have won. If this had happened, I saw a piece of analysis from Ron Wood, I think, saying that, was it Hurricane Lane could have won on a different day? Dermot Weld himself said that he thought that Tanawa would have won.
Too much rain, wasn't it?
For some other reason. And that is typical racing. Everyone had a reason why they could have won the race. But at the end of the day, that's why we run the race, Dave, isn't it?
Absolutely right. He does stay around. So, one for the ages. Probably not. Very, very good race. But, you know, time will tell. Hopefully they go on and have great 4-year-old careers. I'm sure they do. Some fascinating horses. What do we make of the moving of the art? Do you think that's rubbish? Are we just reacting afterwards because it's like, 3 in a row, it's been heavy ground or whatever?
Yeah, but that's part of the arc, isn't it? I think that most horses should be able to handle most types of ground, and I think we almost saw that really on Sunday. All right, Torquato Tasso probably won because of very testing ground, but you couldn't say that Tanawa, Hurricane Lane and Adiyar were particularly massively inconvenienced by it. They all went through it fine and ran to a high level of form. So I just think that is part of the arc. It is always run at this time of year. You know 9 times out of 10 it is going to be soft or heavy ground. And the great horses can handle it, Dave.
And if we moved it forward in the calendar, it's set. At arc time, the divisions are set, aren't they? We know who our stars are that year. That's why they've got to turn up on that weekend. It has been quick ground, of course, in the past. It's just the weather gods.
We've had this with the Champions Day as well, remember? In Britain, people saying, we should change that because
that's
the
got
grounds
well
are
up for them
soft.
Moving forward. Because
sometimes they move it to the inside track, which is the jumps track. But let's be honest, the best horses, if they're great, they will win those races anyway. Frankel, a prime example. Nobody thought he liked soft ground. He was racing against Cirrus de Zego, who absolutely loved heavy ground. Who won? Frankel.
Yeah. There you go. All right, the best horse often wins no matter what the conditions, says G. Champions Day coming up. What will the weather be? Let us know your feedback below. They were the hot topics. Meaty. 1:45 at Newmarket, the first of 5 big race previews on this stellar Saturday coming your way. And it's the Zetland Stakes, a mile 2 for 2-year-olds. A race that about 15 years ago and twice over won it for Henry Cecil and Carlo Dada came back into prominence. And we have, Pat Cooney, seen some decent winners in recent years, none less than Kew Gardens, for example, Coronet, Hartnell won it for Godolphin. Who's going to be the fav?
Well, and throw in as well, Lone Eagle, a runner-up in the Irish Derby last year. And it's an optical illusion, really, isn't it? You think, a mile and a quarter for 2-year-olds. Oh, they must be the slow horses that run in that, right? But you look at the who's who of previous winners, and that's far from the case. Market leader at the moment is Hafid, Charlie Appleby, William Buick, and that just seems to be always a good place to start these days. This was 2 runs. I thought maybe a little bit disappointing last time out. He got beat by a decent horse at Kevin Ryan's. No disgrace. The form was okay. But you're bumping into a couple of, progressive types. Bluegrass represents Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. And he made all to win at the Curragh last time out. You don't often see an Aidan O'Brien horse make all the running and win. So he's very much in the equation. You're not going to get him beat for stamina. Add in Goldspur, 1 run, 1 win. I thought the favourite, I think I could see him easing a bit with the illustrious names in behind him. I'm going to go for Unconquerable, number 9 of Donica O'Brien, trained by Frankie Dettori. And we just all noted this fella running on over a mile at Newmarket last time. He's slow, but he's slow and steady. That normally wins the races, they say. So, Frankie Dettori aboard again. That form might just be okay, but a tough race, this one. I'm not sure the favourite will get any shorter, mind you.
All right, comprehensive for Pat Cooney. And a tip there. Look back in your members section at the replay on Unconquerable last time over a mile. Hafid cost 2.1 million. I don't know, I was looking for a really off-the-page pedigree. I didn't see it that much. They've got Goldspur in there as well, who impressed me when he won at Sandown. I've gone for him, despite the fact he was 2-1 favourite at Sandown. And the time wasn't great, and the form's probably not, it wasn't that strong a race. It's the way he went through it, very professional, hit the line hard. And although he was 2-1 favourite, he was quite easy to back that day. There were 2-1 joints, I think. I think he surprised them. They nominated this straight away. William Buick rides Hafid. I'm going to take Goldspur. Where's G?
Yeah, interesting, Dave, because it's great to have someone who's actually sort of watched that race so closely, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people can get bogged down with, particularly with 2-year-olds, on figures and times, and like you say, actually watching races with your eye and seeing the way these horses go through the races can tell you a lot about them. I thought it was a very difficult race from a punting perspective. All these 2-year-old races are.
Yeah, you're a bit worried about it as a whole this weekend from a clarity point of view, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any outstanding horses on show apart from Inspiral, who's running obviously in the Fillies Mile. But Half It beat Razzle Dazzle. Razzle Dazzle won well at Newmarket, but then disappointed at Doncaster.
Yeah.
Half It was beaten at Haydock, so that was a bit
The Haydock
up
horse
in the air.
beat him triple time, who Pat alluded to, the Ryans. I know that they think he is one for the trials next year. So it might be. It probably is the best form in the race, but
Bluegrass probably for Aidan O'Brien would be the one that I would fall down on. You know this horse is going to stay well. Aidan O'Brien's got a fairly decent record
out in
the
front
race.
on the rail.
Yeah, I could see him being very hard to pass, but it's a tough race for me, Dave.
All right, tough race for G. Pat and myself looking to take on the Fav. Don't forget, stalls stand side. Will there be a Golden Highway? Carrying on at Newmarket, then the 220, another 2-year-old race, this time over the mile, and it's the Autumn Stakes. And Pat Cooney again come to you for a market update. We've got a hot pot here. Could he be another Gayeth who won it for the Boys in Blue a few years ago?
Well, he might be, mightn't he? Corriobus is his name, and it's interesting. He was second last time out to Royal Patronage, and the second favourite Imperial Fighter. He was also beaten by Royal Patronage. So, in theory, you'd say, well, hang on, one's odds on, one's 5-1. But it was just the manner of the way Corriobus travelled through his race when he got beat at Newmarket. I was watching the race actually in the parade ring with Charlie Appleby, and when the horse just moved clear, this is a giant of a horse, by the way. He's absolutely enormous. I mean, it gives Tyson Fury something to worry about, I'm sure, in the horse box. But he marched into the lead. We were all set to crown him as Guinea's favourite, Derby favourite, boat race favourite and everything. And then, amazingly, Royal Patronage just came and beat him. But people coming up to Charlie with a furlong to go saying, well done, he's a lovely horse. And I thought, well, hang on a minute. And then the next thing you know, he was beaten. So I'm sure he won't get such, dare I say, an aggressive ride. He did go to the front quite a long way out. He travelled so well through the race. I can't help but think he's going to get a more restrained ride and look the part, but he's a fabulous looking horse. I expect him to win. I can't necessarily say he's a bet at 5-4 on as we speak at the moment, though.
Yeah, he's going to be short, isn't he? On the impression that he created. I mean, it was done and dusted. We were covering it live in the studio here. You said, this could be special, Dave. And then, of course, he went low in running, didn't he? Royal Patronage came back and did him. Remarkable run. What are we doing with this guy? Because he's obviously now got a sort of fascination following, hasn't he?
Yeah, I thought we were seeing the second coming of Furlong. Yeah, I thought we were seeing something very special.
Well, like the Frankel performance in the Royal Lodge.
And then I don't like the way that he was called.
I knew you were going to be
I do
taking
not
this
like
on.
that at all. I mean, when you see a horse go that far clear and have a race won in that way that he was dominating, and then suddenly get caught near the line, that just rings alarm bells to me. Especially as it was Royal Patronage, who we know isn't really a superstar, I don't think.
Just a grinding stag, one for the Cup Division, maybe.
Yeah, of course. And this is another race where, like Pat says, you've got Royal Patronage ties in with the front two in the market, which is always a worry, because if he isn't as good as maybe he looks, then these front two in the market probably aren't as good as they look.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking, you start overthinking it then, or is Imperial Fighter
Did he
close to
curl
it?
up? Was it inexperience? What was it?
I don't know.
We're going to find out.
We're
aren't
going to
we?
find
We
out.
don't want to be taking a short price, do we? Surely
You
not.
don't want to be taking a short price on him. He might well this time be given a more considered ride, delivered later, and win well. He
The
might.
market will be fascinating, won't it? Because the stable staff, the boys in blue, they don't mind the stable staff having a little bit on, and they'll know the change of tactics might be forthcoming. So if the market's really strong and they think this is the one, and they want him to go into the winter quarters with a 1 next to his name, which you can totally understand for the classics next year. Classic horses do emerge from this race.
I thought we might see him over 7 next time, after last time over a mile, but he's back at a mile.
Yeah.
For me, not at the price. He is the potential star in the race, but not at the price.
Danger.
Well, Imperial Fighter's the obvious one who can beat him.
Royal
but
Patronage form.
Royal Patronage form, again, not a race I have a strong view on, Dave.
Yeah, I thought To Buy Poet might be interesting. Stand side again, the stalls. He's drawn high, this guy. It was a bit of a weak race that he won at Newbury by those standards, but he absolutely dotted up in it, and we rated him quite highly. He'll do for me as a value pick. Now, Charlie Appleby, if you're watching, at the furlong pole this time, when your fanboy Pat Cooney comes rocking up, celebrating with Corribus, hide. It's Group 1 time here on What a Shout. It is the Darley Dewhurst. St Mark's Basilica last year, you name it. The stars, they turn up here, don't they, G? And we have got a hot pot, Native Trail, who I think we can say physically and probably form-wise is head and shoulders above the rest of them. Ebro River, who ran behind him last time, didn't advertise that form in the art. Are we putting that down to the ground? He's short. I like him. I think he's going to win. I'm just going to say that. I think this is different class. You're opposing?
I don't think he's as good as the ratings suggest that he is. He is £10 clear of Bayside Boy on Racing Post ratings. And I don't think that he is anywhere near that much better horse than Bayside Boy. I think they are a lot closer matched. Before that weekend, when he beat Point Lonsdale in the National Stakes, Reach for the Moon obviously was odds on for the Champagne Stakes the previous day at Doncaster, and Bayside Boy beat Reach for the Moon. Native Trail beat Point Lonsdale. But before that weekend, I thought the Jersey Stakes, in which Point Lonsdale and Reach for the Moon had finished first and second, was the best piece of juvenile form all season. And yet they both went and got beat. So then you go to yourself, well, do I need to rethink that Jersey Stakes form? Or have they just both been beaten by very good horses? I actually think that they were both beaten by very good horses. Reach for the Moon, beaten by Bayside Boy. And, of course, Point Lonsdale, beaten by Native Trail. They tie in very closely on lines through Reach for the Moon, Point Lonsdale. I know that Native Trail hammered Point Lonsdale by 3.5 lengths, but I'm not entirely convinced that Point Lonsdale was right at his best that day, Dave. They tie in very closely on their previous run when they both came up against Massacala. Now, Native Trail beat Massacala a short head, and Bayside Boy was beaten ahead by Massacala, both off level weights. One in a Group 2 at Newmarket, Native Trail, and one at Newbury.
So you're sensing a shock?
I think that they are very, very evenly matched, Bayside Boy and Native Trail. I don't buy this idea that Native Trail is some sort of superstar juvenile and that Bayside Boy is just going to kick him out the way. I think it's going to be a very, very tight race between the two. And at 5 or 6 times the price of Native Trail, Bayside Boy has to be the value.
He's strong on the Roger Varian Champagne Stakes winner, then a classic pointer towards this Group 1. Pat Cooney, there are some Irish Raiders as well, the unbeaten supplement, of course, and we have an O'Brien horse who, like Tenebrism, who a couple of weeks ago took out the Shively Park, we've not seen him for ages.
Yeah, they're interesting. You do look at the favourite, don't you, and you think, OK, I get it, unbeaten 3 from 3. He won the Group 1 last time out. I think maybe we were all overestimating Point Lonsdale, weren't we, coming into that race? And maybe he's not, a superstar himself, but worthy favourite, yes. As Graeme says, again, you'd think long and hard about betting 8 to 11. I'm with you. I think he'll win. But there's two, and Bayside Boy is a solid contender. But there's 2 enigmas, aren't there? You've got Glouthorn, as you've touched on, of Aidan O'Brien. Going the Tenebrism route, 1 run, one win 6 months ago. Worked for Tenebrism. There didn't seem to be any confidence behind him. And you're sensing ditto this time around with this fella. But it's Aidan O'Brien in the Dewhurst, and he's a double-figure price, so he's going to have his backers. And straight to answer is the interesting run for Joe Lyons. 2 runs, 2 wins, been supplemented. My only reservation with him, after he won last time out, Joe Lyons was quoted as saying he might be a Commonwealth Cup horse next year. Well, that's 6 furlongs. This is 7 at Newmarket, and it takes a bit of getting the 7. I keep coming back to the favourite. But would I back him? Not at odds on, thank you.
Interesting. OK, that's 3 top juvenile races at Newmarket. Godolphin favourites in all of them at the time of filming. Could Native Trail be the one that drifts? Shall we go jumping? 3:30 Saturday, Chepstow. It's the Silver Trophy. Welcome back, jump fans, to What a Shout. This is a great race, isn't it? A part of a 2-day meeting that people say, kicks off the jump season now. A race steeped in history. This time last year, Paul Nicholls had 8 winners across the 2 days. But you're opposing his newcomer.
I am, because this is a hell of a different race to kicking things out the way at Sedgefield like he's been doing.
Darjanini, is this how we're calling him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Whittington horse. Is that any good?
Yeah, pretty good. Darjanini. No, I think that this is a much different test. Obviously, it's a big field. The one time he came up against a similar test, he was beaten at Aintree. This is his first run for Nicholls, isn't it? It was with Harry Whittington, and he's going to be factored in the market, and he's going to be a short price.
Yeah.
I quite like Roland Wald. Won a big handicap at Aintree's Grand National meeting last season, beat a whole host of subsequent winners that day. Now, he ran on and finished 4th behind Copperless in the Swinton hurdle. Now, that Copperless is a really good horse.
Murphy's.
I was thinking about backing him anti-post for the champion hurdle each way.
What?
He's got to improve massive, I know, Dave. But
a mad Rodway theory waiting for the jumps preview, OK.
Yeah, Copperless going forward fast. And I think that Roland Ward run when he was 4th behind him was very good. First time out this season. Looked like he blew up a little bit to me. He came off the bridle and then he stayed on nicely.
Stuart Edmonds fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I like Stuart Edmonds. I think he'll have this right for this race. He's obviously given him a prep run. And Brian Hughes on board, dear Dave. First ride for the yard.
Interesting, yeah. Paul Nicholls has got the favourite, we think, then, Pat. But in the last decades, of 13 runners, only 2 have placed. I like Orby's Legend, for Philip Hobbs, a trainer who also successfully targets this race. Look back at his Sandown win. How good could he possibly be? What's catching your eye?
Well, the interesting horse is Dargiani, isn't it? Number 18 on the race card. And not often Paul Nicholls has the bottom weight in a handicap, so it is of interest. I thought there were many you could fancy. My eye was drawn to Gower Road, the Tristan Davis team. Wouldn't be a surprise if that one won. But I know this much. I hope they go quick enough in the race, because with the Cesarewitch off at 3:35, we might not get to see them come up to the line. But Gower Road appeals at a price to me.
Yeah, quick word about that, because we've got to move on. 3:30, the showpiece handicap on a Saturday jumps card, 5 minutes before the Cesarewitch.
Yeah, 2.5 mile race as well, so it's going to take them 3 or 4 minutes to run it. We all want to see the big build-up to the big races, build up the suspense. We don't want to be bashing between one big race to the next. Come on, sort it out.
Yeah, talk to each other. OK, is this a bit of a guess-up still at the beginning of the jump season, or do you like one out there? Let us know down below. 3:35 on Saturday. The race for many is not the Dewhurst. It is, of course, the big handicap of the weekend. The Cesarewitch, the second leg of the Orton double. Max Field, max distance, Pat Cooney. Willie Mullins going for a fabulous 4-timer. No trainer done that before in the race. Only won it 3 times. The others have. 6 runners. Who's hot?
Yeah, well, when the entries and the weights came out, we made MC Muldoon favourite. It ran so well at Royal Ascot, of course. And he's got an OK draw in 15, Ryan Moore aboard. So I think he'll carry on being favourite for the race. Of course, most of the market people we were waiting to get the draw. It's paramount you get a high number, really. And the Buzz Horse anti-post was Buzz of Nicky Henderson's. But he's drawn in stall 6, which is no good at all, really. So Oisin Murphy's going to have to work the oracle there. Again, the market has become a lot more vibrant since the draw. And as we touched on, Willie Mullins has got 6 runners in the race. And you look at some of the runners he's got in the jockey bookings. You've got a horse like Micromanage, talented horse. Colin Keane, the Irish champion's aboard him, and he's about a 25, 28 to 1 chance. So these Mullins horses, all 6 of them have got some sort of a chance. So it wouldn't bother me, backing a couple each way in this race. Excuse me. And we do have some shock results in the past. We've had a 50 to 1 winner, 2 66 to 1 winners. So I wouldn't start at the top of the market and work your way down. There's many inward chances. If I had to pick one, I would go for Calling the Wind. He's okay in 27. He's won over 2.5 at Glorious Goodwood. He's more to recommend him, I think, than most others in the race. But I might be looking at a couple of 50 to 1 chances as well with the each way terms on show.
Now, we've not done a unison yet on this panel, but I'll get straight in there. I am in tandem with Pat with Calling the Wind. I think he's better value now than MC Muldoon. Remember when we used to do big calls on this show? I think after he won over hurdles at Galway, MC Muldoon, I said, there's your Cesarewitch winner. So, listen, I think he's going to take a lot of beating under Ryan Moore. But Mullins is leaving nothing to chance, is he? Because there are some very interesting horses, Burning Victory, Micromanage, who looks like he wants a right old drip. But Calling the Wind for me, high draw. When I saw that come out, I don't know how he didn't really beat a progressive horse at Newbury last time either. Keep watching it back. You know he stays. He's the value. Where are you?
You've been reading my Racing Post ratings assessments, haven't you, you and Pat?
The handicapping
you've just looked at the Racing Post ratings, gone, oh yeah, G-Rod, yeah, he's a good judge. I'm going to go with what he's going to do, haven't you? That's what you've both done, I'm sure.
Are we in unison?
Well, I haven't actually spoken to our betting editor, Keith Melrose, about this, but of course, Keith Melrose and myself do handicap the staying division for the Racing Post, and top of our handicap ratings. Off these marks is Calling the Wind. He's very well treated according to us, Racing Post handicappers. And I think that he can win this race. He obviously was impressive when he won at Goodwood, 2.5 miles, similar sort of race, quite a sort of test, isn't it? Obviously not up hill and down dale, and Newmarket is sort of bumpy, isn't it? It's got the dip, and so I think he'll be okay. And last time out, too much to do at Newbury. And far too much to do.
It was a case of press the button and go past, wasn't it? And the line came too soon.
Yeah, I think they thought he was going to get there and never quite did.
So he doesn't get a penalty, that's all the better for this race.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is this is the too much to do race, isn't it? Because MC Muldoon, too much to do.
He will be held up
at Ascot. Yeah, last time, far too much to do.
He did really well to go as close as he did that day.
Oh, he did fantastically well to get that close. There's no doubt about it. But like you say, he's going to be a hostage to fortune again. He's got 34 runners lining up across.
I wonder about him under a battle as well. We've got last year's winner, Great White Shark, in the race as well for Mullins. That was one of the rides of the season. I reckon that Willie Mullins would have been talking to Jason Watson about going jumping after that. Rowing away miles out, wouldn't it? It might not be the worst move in the world. Jason was. So what's the tip? Are we all agreeing?
Yeah, I think we all agree. Call in the wind.
Unbelievable scenes here on What a Shout. 34 runners, 2.5 miles. We all agree. Call that wind. Right, weekend winner time then. We're keeping Hollie Doyle with us for this section.
My best bet of the day is Bayside Boy to beat Native Trail in the Dewhurst. I think he's an equally exciting horse, and it should be a great race that one day.
All right, OK. I'm going to go. We were in unison on the panel earlier on, calling the wind in the Cesarewitch. Massive field, bigger the certainty and all that sort of thing. He'll go really close with Pat Dobbs and Richard Hughes. Pat Cooney.
Yeah, I'm off to the 3:15 at York, and I'm going to put a horse with form figures of 068064.
Is that a phone number?
And it's called Laugh a Minute, trained by Adrian McGuinness, ridden by Ronan Whelan. We saw them win the Abbey with A Case of You, so stable very much in form. All I'll say, forget the form figures, watch its last run at the Curragh. It came from stall 12, an absolute winner without a penalty, stable in form. So Laugh a Minute, set of decent price, ropey form figures, but just watch that last run. You'll be impressed.
Well, if you backed the chaps Naps last week, you were indeed laughing at the minute because they were on sensational form. There are your weekend winners for this Dewhurst weekend. That's all we've got time for then on this weekend's What a Shout. Hollie Doyle, thanks for joining us. You're a really busy person. You're off filming with Sky now, aren't you, at Ascot? Champions Day coming up. We wish you good luck. Let's hope Glen Shield can bounce back. Great to see you, Hollie.
Thank you. Cheers for having me.
Wherever Trueshan goes next, you can bet that Hollie will be there as well. Thanks to having you again, Graeme Rodway. Let's hope you back up last weekend's sterling performance.
Yeah, last weekend was good. It'd be hard to better that day, but I'll be trying my best.
Yeah, you can't keep a good man down. Pat Cooney, you're at Newmarket. Enjoy the big weekend out there, my friend.
Yeah, it's going to be gorgeous, isn't it? Nice and mild, no rain. Going to be lovely. Some superstars on show, so looking forward to it.
So myself, Dave Orton, signing off on this stellar weekend. Get your comments in below for Hollie and the panellists as well. Don't forget to download the free Must-Have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play Store itself. Don't forget, gamble responsibly. That's what it's all about. Our thanks to you. We'll see you next week on Champions Day.